Welcome to the notes on solving rational equations. Okay, so these are going to be equations that contain rational expressions. So here are some steps, okay, that they have written right out for you. To solve an equation containing rational expressions, the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to tell this to you right now, is we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by the least common denominator. And remember, that's really the least common multiple of all the expressions in the equation. From there, that's going to remove, all right, any grouping symbols, all right, and then we're going to have things that are cancel out, and then we're going to remove any grouping symbols, which means distribute, all right, and then we're going to solve the resulting equation. Then we can always check the solution in the original, equation, and then I'm just going to put a little note there: is it undefined or not? And I'll explain what that means in a little bit. Okay, so here we go. First example, all right, x over 2 plus 8 over 3 equals 1/6. We're going to look at the denominators, okay? We're going to look at these denominators right here, all right? We want to find that common denominator. Well, the least common multiple will never be smaller than the largest number. So I look to this 6, okay, because what are the multiples of 6? 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, and so on. And then we want to see if the other two denominators go into 6. So I look at 6. Do 2 and 3 both go into 6? Yes, it does. Well, that means then my least common denominator is 6. So I'm going to multiply every term by 6. And the key is every term gets multiplied by 6. Now watch what happens. Why do we do that? Well, that's going to eliminate the fraction. Okay, most of us don't like fractions, but we can just simply eliminate them. Take a look. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice. And then the 6's, that becomes 1. It cancels out. At this point, this is where I then need to continue to simplify. I still have multiplication here. It's 3 times x. So that just becomes 3x plus 2 times 8, because I still have that up there in the numerator. So 2 times 8 is 16, and then this just equals 1. Once we're here, it's a really simple equation to solve. Just do what we've been taught, all right? Balance the equation, do the opposite operation. 3 subtract 16 from each side, so I get 3x equals negative 15. I think you guys know I divide by 3, x equals negative 5, and there's your solution. Let's take a look at another example right here. Okay, it looks pretty nasty, all right? We don't have a common denominator, we need to find one. Okay, so I look at the largest denominator, it's 18. Do 2 and 9 go into 18? They do, so that must be the least common denominator, right? It is 18. So, like I said, I'm going to multiply every term by the least common denominator. And let's take a look at what happens. All right, the 2 cancels out, it goes into there 9 times. 9 cancels, that goes into once, goes into here twice. The 18s cancel out. Now, here's the key part, all right? It says remove any grouping. That means distribute. That's why the parentheses are important. So I'm going to end up with 9t minus 36. And then over here, this negative goes with that 2. So it's negative 2 times t, which is negative 2t. And then negative 2 times negative 3 is plus 6. And then that equals 18. Equals 5. The 18 cancels out. I just have the 5 left. At this point, we're just going to solve the equation. I have like terms that I can combine. There's my 7t minus 36 plus 6 is negative 30 equals 5. I think you guys know now how to solve this. Add 35, 7t equals, add 30. I got ahead of myself there. I knew what the answer was going to be. 7t equals 35. And then I think you guys know divide by 7, and t this time equals 5. So there you have another example. Let's take a look at one more. This one will be a little bit more advanced, but let's take a look. So in the denominator, the only denominator we have is x. Well, that means all of those need that x. So the x is our least common denominator, which is bx. So that's what I need to multiply everything by. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can see this a little closer now. So every term is going to get multiplied by x. This is going to get multiplied by x. X itself is going to get multiplied by x. And then 8 is going to get multiplied by x. So x times 3, that's just going to be 3x. Nothing's going to cancel out here. Here you can see that these x's cancel out, so I'm just left with a minus 6. Now watch this. X times x, what do we get there? X squared. all right, and then plus 8x. So anytime that you get this x squared right here, that means we got to solve by factoring, which is what we've done. We've been taught how to do that in previous units. If you need to know how to do that, go back to some of that stuff in unit 10. So if it's solved by factoring, we have to get it equal to 0. So that means we've got to get this to the other side. All right, so I'm going to subtract 3x. So I'm going to end up with negative 6 equals x squared plus 8x minus 3x is plus 5x. Well, now I want to get this minus 6 over there. So I got to get plus 6. That cancels it out. Add 6 over here. So when I do that, all right, I'm going to end up with what's on this side? Well, that's 0 equals x squared plus 5x plus 6. I can't combine those because they're not like terms. At this point, I need to solve by factoring. 0 equals, all right, x times x gives us our x squared. What multiplies to 6, that adds up to positive 5. Well, that's going to be plus 3 plus 2. Okay, so x plus 3, x plus 2, that works. Now, my answers then, since this times this equals 0, one of them has to be 0. So remember, we set them equal to 0 to solve. X plus 2 equals 0. So when we solve it, x is going to be negative 3 or negative 2. Because if I plug those in, that would make that equation true. Because something multiplied by 0 has to be 0. So there you have our lesson on solving rational equations. Find that least common denominator and multiply it through to the denominators and watch and eliminate those fractions.